What you're about to experience are my opinions and truths. I'm suggesting these possibilities for you to consider, enabling you to come up with your own conclusions. All right, ladies and gentlemen, code breakers around the world, wherever you may be. My name is Logan, going to be your tour guide for this episode of Scripted Reality. This is number 34. This is a very popular series with the code breaking community, as it should be. It's very enlightening. And this is coming off of a lot of you watched the Scripted Reality 33. I got a lot of feedback on that. How mind-blowing it was. If you thought that was impressive, if you were really blown away with that one, this one's like on steroids. This one is 10 times the magnificence of Scripted Reality 33. If you're still on the fence of whether or not we have control over this reality, well, I'm going to leave you pondering quite a bit throughout this entire presentation. So let's begin, ladies and gentlemen, with this Scripted Reality 34. Quickly, I do want to give a big thank you to all of you members over on the Patreon. We have over 120 videos that you're not going to find here on YouTube. The donating members get access to those. A lot of my pre-slides come out over on the Patreon. You do not have to become a donating member to receive content. I do pump out a lot of content, but if you want the exclusivity, the 120 and counting videos, you can become a donating member over there. Thank you so very much to all of you. And then thank you to everybody that has joined in on the Spotlight course, spotlight.life, L-I-F-E. This is where you can use over 8 layers to decode yourself using astrology, numerology, etc., etc. Spotlight.life. All right. So got the quick stuff out of the way. Let me get into this graphic here. Like, what is this all about? Well, we have Jesus to the left, and we have Darth Vader to the right. They're both laughing, pointing the finger at each other. What does this mean? Well, I feel like the Luke story, right? Luke and Darth Vader, I am your father. Jesus saying in the Bible, ye are of your father the devil. He doesn't say I'm not from that. He just says ye are of the father the devil. What would this mean through the context of that story? And is that what George Lucas and company was trying to get across for the amazing series of Star Wars? So let's get into the methods really quickly to show you how all this stuff breaks down. Really quick, right? Star Wars 1977, May 25th. Well, I'm going to go right to the cards, the playing cards. They're all attached to the birthdays. This is the card assigned to May 25th, the 7 of clubs, card number 20, which in the tarot converts into the 7 of wands, card number 29. What's fascinating with this, just already off the bat, 7 is L. There's the letter L upside down. L means God. The clubs is a thinking suit. In the tarot, it's a fire suit. This card right here is defending what matters. That's what Star Wars was all about. The Galactic Federation, it was the light against the dark, defending those positions. This is polarity. This is completely being polarized by way of what the tarot is showing. And then we can easily connect numerology to the playing card assigned to Star Wars 1977, the word duality. Chaldean numerology, one of the best ciphers you can use in the entire world, in the world of code breaking. Very, very accurate. Duality is 20. And then we can easily attach chemistry to this. This is alchemology, alchemy and chemistry together. Numerology and chemistry together, because the 20th element, duality, is where we get calcium, which is what our bones and teeth are made of. And then we can even add in biology, because we have the amino acid structures. There are 20 amino acids that create the building blocks of life. So this tells a story from biology to chemistry to numerology, tied all together, and then the card chosen for Well, May 25th was the date for Star Wars, but that card is the Seven of Clubs, which turns into the Seven of Wands. Okay, so these are some of the methodologies that we're going to use for this entire scripted reality number 34. And I'm going to show you how this is a storyboard, and there's no way mankind could ever code anything like this at the deep levels that we're going to be showing here. So let's start off with the first topic, 71. Why 71? Well, this is how I got started on this presentation. I woke up 3 days ago, and this popped into my head. Can't remember why, though, because it's been over 3 days. But this is the Star Wars episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, 1980. And this is where Darth Vader tells Luke, "I am your father." So I thought it was very interesting. This is a pretty big marker. You can see the red and blue, red against blue, the root against the throat, or the third eye, if you will. The opposite polarities, the symbolism in there. I am your father, Luke. So I went to the movie, and I stopped it exactly when Vader finishes saying father. I am your father, pause. And you can see I have the arrow down there and the timestamp. I've done these timestamps. I did it with The Truman Show. I've done it with Cabin in the Woods. I've done it with many movies. Well, this one is mind-blowing because 1 hour and 51 minutes and 19 seconds off the copy I have, those numbers add up to 71. So we have a connection between a timestamp in a movie that the editors, all the people that were involved to slice and dice and clip it to get it to come out this way. And why would they want to get it to come out this way? What would the message be here? Well, ladies and gentlemen, the 5 men that played Vader throughout the entire trilogy, from David, who was the first Vader in the body, James Earl Jones, the voice of Vader all the way through, Sebastian's the one that died, Jake is the one that was the little Anakin, and then the teenage Anakin, Christian, their birthdays, all 5 of their birthdays, add up to the number 70 frickin' 1. So, did the editors purposely do this? And you see, ladies and gentlemen, this came out long before these guys got casted. So if you're going to cast future roles, you would have to make sure that you get the birthdays to come out exactly like this. We need to get an actor. We got to put them through everything, but they got to be the 5 and the 19. Do you know how absurd that is to get it out, come out this way? I am your father, and all 5 members that play Vader are tied to that. Their birthdays are tied to that. I have it squared out in red. There it is. The character's been portrayed by those actors. You can go fact check it yourself. 71, and it just doesn't stop there. 71 for this topic is in mathematics the 20th prime number. Prime numbers are standalone numbers. But why this is important is because the 20th card in the deck is the 7 clubs card, which is the card of Star Wars. The release in 1977 is the 7 of clubs. Card number 20. The storyboard tells you this Star Wars is about duality, where you have a bag of bones and you're playing through the biology of the body, and you're either with the light or the dark, defending your position. That's what the whole movie was about. Superhero and villain. So, ladies and gentlemen, the first question I want to ask you, if you're still on the fence, what would be the odds that all of these things connect like this? And they got all 5 men to come out like this, to attach to that 20th card, attach to that number 71 through mathematics, and attach to the timestamp of when Vader tells Luke for the very first time, I am your father. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, father means biology. This is what's going on in your body. That's why you eat protein. Protein's tied to the building blocks, which is tied to the growth of what a human being means through duality. Through your bag of bones. Calcium is in the bones and teeth. This storyboard is amazing. It's mind-blowing already. And this timestamp right here, ladies and gentlemen, should ask you this question. What do you think? Do you think that they're actually doing this? And they would have to have something peering into the future to get it like this. Anyway, let's move forward. That was like the humdinger to start this thing off, and I got many more humdingers to start this presentation. Just getting started. So let's go further. This is the card for May 25th. I want to be very transparent. Here's the card chart for the birthdays. Here's the month of May. You come down to May 25th. There it is. 7 of clubs, May 25th. Okay, I just want to be crystal clear. So there's the 7 of clubs card, and the spirit card for the 7 of clubs is the 8 of diamonds. We find that by going to the card chart here. This is the master life spread on the right-hand side, and we just locate the 7 of clubs, which is right here. And then we just come over to the spirit side on the same space, and there's the 8 of diamonds. You have these as well with your birthday. Okay, you should know what yours are. So we have the 8 of diamonds as the spirit card for the release of Star Wars, the very first one in 1977. And then we have the 7 of clubs being its ego card. 1977 was the year of the snake. That's why I have the snake in the top right-hand corner there. And I have Jesus laughing because it has everything to do with him, because when you look at the cards, it gives you the 8 and 7, and that's exactly the numerology from the original modern Koine Greek where it was written, taken from the New Testament in the book of Matthew. Jesus, 87. Luke, I am your father. Ye are of your father the devil. That's what Jesus says in the book of John. You think the Bible is not connected to Star Wars and these cards and our names in our lives? Of course it is. All of it's connected. All of it is scripted. That's why it's called the scriptures, because it's a script playing out. Doesn't mean it's the final answer, and there are countless scripts playing out. I just like to connect the numerology to the theology because it's so easy, and the cards and all that kind of stuff. And then we have Vader laughing and pointing because he's defending his position. And you can see his numerology, Chaldean especially, 34. Well, what happens when you add 34 and 20 up together? What happens when you look at the spirit card? Excuse me. The spirit card that governs the May 25th ego card, all these govern the ego cards. It's the 8 of diamonds, and we have 8 known blood types. I am your father, 8 known blood types. 8 of pentacles, this is card number 72, card number 29. You can look at those through the tarot. So again, what would the odds be that Darth Vader in Chaldean numerology is 34, which matches the spirit card of May 25th, 1977? And the question is, did George Lucas and company, did they have all this knowledge before they put the movie out? And they would have to have a future telling device, because you'd have to cast all those actors that played Darth Vader in the future. Anakin and the teenage Anakin. And I ain't buying that. So then we get into chemistry to add another layer to this and go deeper. We're made up of these elements. We have the 34th element, selenium, which is tied to the spirit card. The spirit card governs the ego card. So essentially, this 8 of diamonds is the governing card for the Star Wars movie. 8 known blood types, selenium, element number 34. And selenium means the moon. It comes from the word Selene, which is the goddess of the moon. Moon is the darker light, the shadow of the sun, the negative in the anode and cathode. And then you have the 20th card tied to the element calcium, which we already showed. Calcium is where you get your bones and teeth from. This is duality. Duality. So what this is insinuating here through chemistry, the portal is the moon, which is nothing new because there are many ancient esoteric texts that say that the moon is the portal that incarnates us. So this would mean the portal back into duality. That's what this is insinuating here. And remember, you have like in Hollywood, they have DreamWorks pictures and it's fishing from the moon. The moon is when normally movies come out at night. Not during the day, they usually come out at night. Film premieres are at night usually. So there's a big heavy emphasis on the moon there. So you're gonna see this throughout this presentation. And then when we do the molar mass, just simply adding up these two elements, which come from the two cards, which come from the movie Star Wars, selenium and calcium, 120. And we get the 50th element called tin or stannum in Latin. You can see I have Zeus in the background. Zeus is the striped planet. Why Zeus? Because alchemically, this is Zeus's element, one of them. The main one is tin. This is it. And what's fascinating about Zeus, not only is it the king of the gods, tied to Vishnu in the Vedic traditions, the preserver, the O in the God, but Zeus in the original Greek, from the ancient Greek language, is 54, which matches the word pineal gland coming from the Old Testament, where you have Jacob coming face to face with God. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, the two cards for Star Wars in 1977 add up to the number 54. Crazy syncs. Scripted reality. We're at with this. These are storyboards telling us how this looks and operates. You're going to see a lot of the Zeus energy moving forward here through this next topic called Queen. So here's the Queen Bee. It is Natalie Portman in this movie. She was 17 when they cast her to play, or at least she was 17 when she starred in this movie, The Phantom Menace, 1999. Her birth card is the 8 of Diamonds. Remember, there's 8 known blood types. She was born on June 9th, same birthday as Michael J. Fox from Back to the Future. If you're a fan of Jason Bashir's over at Archaics, he was born on June 9th. Did a whole breakdown on him. But the 8 of Diamonds, and she is the queen. And what's mind-blowing about this is that her name numerology, in Hebrew, because I didn't put this there, she was born in Israel, so obviously they have her Hebrew name in there. Her Hebrew numerology name is 124, which, ladies and gentlemen, it is the symbol of Zeus, Jupiter, the king of the gods. It's got the 1, the 2, and then the 4. I've shown this in the Zeus Decoded and other decodes. On top of that, her 8 of Diamonds in the card system sits in the crown line. She's a queen in the movie. And it sits in the latitude line of Zeus. Sits in the crown line, but it sits in the latitude line of Zeus. So she not only has her name numerology from the original Hebrew matching up to the symbol of Jupiter Zeus, but her card sits in the crown line of Zeus. Coincidence? And is George Lucas a fan of this system? How do you cast somebody like this? Are they doing this prior to, and again, you go back to the whole 71, I just not buying it. But wait, there's more. Of course, let's not forget that the spirit card for Star Wars on May 25th, 1977 was the 8 of Diamonds, 7 of Clubs ego card, but it's the 8 of Diamonds, the spirit card, the divine card running the ego card, which is the 7 of Clubs. So we have the Queen, Natalie Portman, playing the Queen of Naboo here, who ends up mating with Anakin to produce Luke and Leia, to have the superhero and villain intact throughout this movie. She sits in the crown line. Her name numerology is 124, tied to the symbol of Jupiter Zeus. And it's the spirit card for the release of Star Wars in 1977. She was born in 1981. The Phantom Menace came out in 1999. Who's peering into the future here to get all this stuff out like this? Remember, Darth Vader is 34, and that's what the Eight of Diamonds is. It's card 34. But now we introduce Anakin, the young Anakin. 9 years old when they casted him. He was born in 89, born in the year of the snake as well. Star Wars came out in 1977, which is the year of the snake, and the Chinese, if you fancy that. So he was born in the snake. The original comes out in the year of the snake. He's going to become Darth Vader. He's going to mate with the Queen. So how does all this stuff look? Well, this is how scripted these two are. I've done this before on other people, Carrie Ann Moss and Keanu Charles Reeves, showing them their distance between their birth cities. Well, let's take a look at Jacob Matthew Lloyd and Natalie Hirschlag. Natalie Portman, she goes by professionally. She was born in Jerusalem. He was born in Fort Collins, Colorado. Punched it into distancefrom2.net. Got 6,830 miles. 6,830.55. The 0 means infinite potential. So I went ahead and I punched the 683 into the mathematics, and look at what we got, ladies and gentlemen. What are the odds? And again, the editors, the directors, the casting agents, they would all have to be in on this to get it out, to come out like this. So now they'd have to add in, well, we're going to cast a queen. Now we have to cast Vader, the young Vader, and they have to be 6,830 miles away, because 683 is the 124th prime number, and the 124 is the symbol 1, 2, 4 of Zeus. Coincidence? How are all these mathematical equations coming out like this? Well, we live in a scripted reality, folks. So here he is, Jacob Matthew Lloyd, 9 years young when he got to play the young Anakin. There he is, cute little kid. So I go to Solar Spread number 9 to look for his birth card. There it is. He's the 5 of Spades. March 5th is the 5 of Spades, card number 44. And well, I want to look and see, what's his Zeus card? Well, it's the 7 of Clubs. Here's his card right here. You just go Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Zeus. So they cast him at 9, and his Zeus card is the 7 of Clubs, and the 7 of Clubs is the card for the 1977 opening of the trilogy of Star Wars on May 25th. And remember, these two cards not only form Jesus, but 34 is the spirit card to tie into Darth Vader. 34 plus 20 is 54, which is Zeus. This is a Zeus card. So these editors and these casting agents, they're all playing around with the cards. They're all playing around with numerology. They're all playing around with this prior to casting these people for these movies. Do you know how absurd that is to say that? To think that they're doing this beforehand to get these outcomes like this? No way. No way. And we live in a scripted reality. Let's get into the next topic now. Vader. The main antagonist. So here is the young Vader, Jacob Matthew Lloyd, coming out in The Phantom Menace, 1999, and then in Return of the Jedi, when Vader gets his crown taken off, you get to see his face, and you watch him die with Luke in his arms, or Luke having him in his arms. Sebastian Shaw, born on May 29th. So he's the one who is born into the role. He's the one that dies out of the role. Hey, wouldn't you know it, ladies and gentlemen? Their birthdays, 5 and 29. Get out your calculators. What's 5 plus 29? 34. 34. See the value of Chaldean numerology? I don't know why some decoders don't use it. It tells you, it maps out our entire reality. And 34 is the element selenium, which means the moon. The moon is the shadow of the sun. That's what Vader is. The fear. Astronomy-wise, the moon is the fear of the sun. So I cast shadows. So let's take a look at Jacob Matthew Lloyd's astrological chart. We're using the true sidereal, the accurate map of the stars. And we're going to go to March 5th, 1989. Remember, he's born in the year of the snake. Fort Collins, Colorado. And I'm going to put it into the astro-alchemical map. This is the human design with an upgrade because we're moving it into true sidereal. We're adding on the elements of the periodic table on the outside. And we're going to add in numerology. And you're going to see how powerful this system is. You can get it on Spotlight, by the way, if you want to do your own decode on your birthday. The whole system on Spotlight. You can learn how to do it. Let me give you an overview of how scripted this kid was. And I want to remind you, the human design came out in 1987. 2 years later, they come out with the Phantom Menace. So maybe they were using it, but 1977, they were not. And you're going to see how it's an impossibility for the 1977 movie to be embedded into this. Again, unless they're peering into the future. So here's Zeus, 54, right? You know how big the Zeus is with this kid. And wouldn't you know it, that his moon for his birthday is in gate 54, which is the element xenon, which makes the movie. If you go to a movie, in the movie theaters, there's a xenon bulb probably that's putting it out onto the screen. The movie, the light, casting the characters on the screen, xenon bulbs. But anyway, that's for a different story. So his moon is there, which is a big deal. He has a crescent moon here. It's a dark moon. Becomes Darth Vader. And then he has his Pluto, the underworld, in gate number 57, which is Lanthanum. Gate number 57, Pluto being tied to the dark side. This is not just like one-stop shop. It's all of this. But I'm bringing you the highlights. This 57 is tied to the beast in theology. Revelation 13 verses 1 is talking about a beast rising out of the sea. That's what happens if you're at the ocean or a lake and you watch the moon rise. It comes out of the water. Well, wouldn't you know, when you just simply connect the dots, the 138 is tied to the 57. And Lanthanum has an icon with a camera. Is that why Christoph was on the moon watching Truman? I don't know, but all I know is the 57 is there and the 138 is there, and this is about a beast. And Darth Vader is the beast in the Star Wars trilogy. And he's got his Pluto, which is the dark side in Lanthanum. This is real life astrology now. So something, again, the producers, the editors, the writers would have to have beforehand, before writing the script, before writing the screenplays, before creating this entire trilogy. Impossibility. Impossibility, ladies and gentlemen. Well, now we get into the big one. And this is the value of this system. It's called astro-alchemical cosmic codes. The value of this system, we take numerology and we get into this word called fear. And that's how he became Darth Vader. I'm going to come back to this. He's got his Chiron there. Because the story about this kid, right here, the AI overview, he was deeply defined by his fear of loss. He lost his mother at a young age. And then the woman he mates with to produce Luke and Leia, she dies after giving birth. And he's got this trauma of being a slave, failing to save his mother, and it turns into an obsession. The trauma. I didn't write this, but there it is, fear. And his fear, 16, ties into gate number 16, which is sulfur, fire, which is where his Chiron is at. His Chiron is in gate 16, which matches fear. which is a big part of his character. And it's a big part of your life. If you know where your Chiron is and you know what gate it's in and what zodiac sign and then the element on the periodic table that ties to it, boy, you'll have a lot more clues. If you're in a partnership, don't you want to know what your partner's coded as? I would think so. But this is where you add in the element of chemistry here to add on to the amazing human design, giving it an upgrade with the true sidereal. Way more accurate than tropical. But we add chemistry. See, gate 16 is not just gate 16. The gate of Sophia. I call it the gate of Sophia. It's the gate of knowledge, but it's the gate of sulfur. Connects to gate 48, the gate of the well. And this is where you get Darth Vader from. See, he got created by his fear of death, trauma, abandonment, to try to control his destiny. It became Vader. See, the value of numerology, it's called alchemology, numerology tied into chemistry. The 34 is one of the stable isotopes of sulfur 16, and he has his Chiron there, which is tied to his fear. And what rules Gemini is Mercury, so this is going to be about the way he thinks, because that's exactly what this is all about. Trauma and fear, it's all tied to the way you think. So this is, remember, this is his real birth chart. This is not a fake fiction chart. This is a real non-fiction chart. Sulfur. And remember, the color lightsaber that Vader carries is red. Sulfur is fire. So I made it red, but that's what Vader carries, and that's what fire is, red. And see, it just doesn't stop there, because when you come up here to where his Mercury is, his Mercury, the way he thinks, the Mercury is ruling Gemini. Gemini is where his wound is, which makes him become Darth Vader. Well, he's got his Mercury in Prometheum. Prometheus is the Titan who steals fire and gives it to humans. Knowledge. What do you do with knowledge? You can get power with that. He chose the dark side of the Force. And his Mercury is there, and Mercury rules Gemini. So the Mercury's tied to Chiron. Chiron is your wound, and this is about the way he thinks. And clearly he has trauma and abandonment and a lot of other things which makes him lean to the dark side. So here's the gate 16. It's tied to the throat. It's the way we speak our magic spells. It's tied to gate 48, which is tied to the well. This is about repetition. Repetition, you become good at what you go through repetition with. Well, he became good at becoming a Jedi, became a Jedi Knight, a Knight, the Black Knight, forged through fire, sulfur, by way of the way he thinks, Prometheum. And he's got it in Capricorn. He has both his moon and Mercury in Capricorn, and Capricorn is ruled by what? Kronos. Kronos is Saturn, Satan, which is over here in Sagittarius. And you're going to see this when we get to the other members that play Darth Vader. It's absolutely mind-blowing, and it's an impossibility to get it come out like this with all these actors playing all these roles, with all these placements. So here he is, and what's fascinating about Jacob Matthew Lloyd is he retired, I think, in 2012, and his personal life kind of mimics the life of Darth Vader. It's mind-blowing. I wish I could sit down and have a conversation and show him all this stuff. It's mind-blowing, man, how personal life lines up with movies. We're an actor in our own lives, and then we have a fractal below as we act out if you're an actor for Hollywood or TV shows or whatever. You have a secondary, a so below. Well, anyway, this is his card, his birth card. March 5th is the 44th card in the deck, the 5 of spades. So you notice it's a black card. Spades are the I am suit, all the way at the bottom. Becomes the swords in the tarot. Card number 55 in the tarot. The word Satan in English is 55, English A through Z. Because that's what he becomes, Satan. He becomes Satan in the movie. What is Satan? The adversary, which is just simply your ego. That's why Jesus got tempted when he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. It's your ego, your desires, your lust, your fears, your traumas. The opposite of spirit, it's the ego. That's it. Well, he becomes a Satan. I say a Satan because there's many of them, and we have that energy inside of us, all of us. Well, he was casted to play at 9 years young, this role. Well, there's his card right there. Sitting in the Neptune-Mercury line. And I'm going to go right to his Chiron card. And I'm going to show you how, eerily, how ridiculously scripted this kid's life was throughout his life and this movie. That King of Spades is his Chiron card. Chiron represents your deepest wounds and insecurities and traumas. And that's how he became Darth Vader. So this Chiron placement for him, for turning into Darth Vader, and for you personally is a massive clue on figuring out how you're coded. This is a Star Wars chart because he was casted at 9, but this is real life. And wouldn't you know it, that the King of Spades, his Chiron card is card number 52, which matches the New Testament spelling in Greek of Satan. If I do it in the Hebrew, you get 44. The origination from Job 1 verses 6. But then you get it in the New Testament. Satan, 52. There it is. And so all you have to do is count 9 cards from where your card is. Right to left, top to bottom. So Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, Chiron. His wound. He ends up becoming Satan. That's what ends up happening with this kid. Do you see how dialed in this kid is with him being casted to play Anakin, the young Anakin at age 9? It's absolutely mind-boggling how accurate this is. And how he was defined by Satan, by Darth Vader, his ego, by the dark side, by fears and trauma. And everything that's happened to him. He was a slave, lost his mother. Some of you out there listening to this, you have some of these traumas. And with the fear comes anger. Essentially, again, this is the card for Star Wars 1977. You can see the energy of this. The 7 of Wands is like, don't come near me. This is like, all these wands are people poking at you. And this is defending your turf. That's what Star Wars is all about. That's why the 7 of Clubs is the card, the ego card. Spirit card is card 34, which matches Darth Vader. That's why Darth Vader is the biggest character on this entire poster. It's fascinating. You have, I would imagine Luke there. I mean, is this just the pineal gland? It's in the left eye. This is the left-hand path. That's the path of sin. I mean, subtly, did they do that on purpose? Well, let's get into the next topic now. Now I'm going to get into the 666 Satan. Now I'm going to get into the 2 main guys that played the adult Darth Vader. 1977, May 25th, when this movie came out, it was these 2 gentlemen that played Vader. David Prowse, standing 6'6", played the body of Vader. And then James Earl Jones, that voice, that deep voice, got to be the voice of Vader. And this is how scripted these guys' lives are. And I don't know how you'd even describe this and tell me that man is actually trying to pull this off to get these numbers to come out this way. See, 666, now you bring in theology, which has nothing to do with the movie, but it has everything to do with it. 666 in the Greek from the original Revelation 13 verses 18 is 199. Folks, what do you get when you take David Prowse's birthday? He was born on the 182nd day of the year, July 1st, common year. And then you add January 17th, which is the 17th day. What's 182 and 17, folks? Get out your calculators, man. Add it up. 199. So again, did the editors, did the writers, the directors, whoever casted these guys, did they look into this first and say, we got to get a guy to play the body and we got to get a guy's voice, and they have to add up to 199 to get to the 666, this. Because I'm telling you right now, this is the Satan in the movie. The antagonist. I mean, even when you look at the calendar, the day on the calendar in the common and leap years, the 199th day of the year, July, is July 17th. He was born on the 17th. The whole voice of Vader throughout the movie is James Earl Jones. 17th. And then what about the 18th? Well, you just take the 17 and you add David's number 1 birthday, and 17 and 1 is 18. And that satisfies that position. Common and leap years. That satisfies that. Check. And then on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, you take the ridiculousness of their birth cities and put it into Chaldean numerology, and you get a 44. And what's the 44? Satan. And the 44th card is the 5 of spades, which is going all the way back to the beginning when they casted Jacob Matthew Lloyd to play Anakin in The Phantom of the Menace. And when did Phantom of the Menace come out? 1999. When did Star Wars come out? 1977. Get out your calculators. What's 1999 minus 1977? 22. They both have a 22. For their birth cities, they play the body of Vader. He plays the baby, the little child that will become Vader. Are you seeing these crazy connections through this methodology? I hope so. So we bring more theology into this. This is the 666 Vader topic. Started this thing off with Jesus saying, get away from me, Satan. That's the ego. Your father is of the devil, he says. John 8 verses 44. Ye are of your father the devil. It doesn't say, Jesus doesn't say, but I'm not. He's not excluded from it. Well, right there, man. There's the English. Adding the English into this. I know fans of the English. I am your father. Go watch the Zeus Decoded. I used English primarily throughout that entire decode. I am your father is 160, which matches from the modern Greek, the New Testament, Antichrist. Do you see how this works? Because the devil is the antagonist, but it's the father, just like Jesus says in John 8 verses 44. So what is this Antichrist? Your ego. It's your desires of the flesh. It's your fears and your traumas and not thinking you're going to have enough. Thinking that you're going to get abandoned. Christ comes from the verb called krio, which is the sun. It's light. The moon is the antagonist of the sun, the Antichrist, through the context of astronomy. And the Antichrist can be technology. There's a lot of layers of Antichrist. Are you seeing this? And what tarot card would be the 160? Well, you just do the mathematics here. There are 78 total cards in the tarot. What tarot card is the Antichrist card? Well, you just have to take the 78 total cards of the tarot and use that as the base and subtract until you get to 78 or below. You got to do it twice. And 160 minus 78 is 4. We go to the major arcana. It's the emperor. It's the king. Darth Vader is a king. The Antichrist is a king. The father. And this emperor is card number 4. And in astrology, house number 4 is ruled by Cancer. And Cancer is ruled by the moon. And the moon is the god of sin. The left-hand path. Sin. The Antichrist. Sinning is Antichrist. The moon is the opposite of the sun. The moon is the portal. Remember, Christoph was on the moon watching Truman play out his role. The emperor, man. The king. This is a Cancer card. Despite what people tell you, it's an Aries. Yeah, it has Aries there, but this is a card of Cancer. Because Cancer is the 4th sign. The emperor is the 4th card. This is the portal. The beast. The king. 4 blood types. A, B, O, AB. If you don't take on, then RH factors. 4 corners of the earth, 4 seasons of nature. That's why it's the king. Let's get into the voice. James Earl Jones, who made Vader famous. Are you ready to have your mind blown beyond what I've already showed you? James Earl Jones, here is his astrological chart. 1977. He was 46 when he spoke Vader. First time. 46 years young. He's 93 right now. Look at his birth certificate name. And I have Connolly there because that's his mother's maiden name. If you can add on your mother's maiden name, you'll get an extra layer to your name numerology. Notice Connolly is 34, Darth Vader is 34. No accident there. Well, he's got a total name numerology of 80. And you just go right back to selenium, which is the moon. There's the 34, there's the 34, his mother's maiden name, and selenium is the 80, and there's the 80. And selenium is the moon, and I'm going to look to his moon, and there it is in Sagittarius, sign number 9. Remember that Jacob Matthew Lloyd was 9 years young when they casted him to play Anakin. It's all tied to this Sagittarius energy, which is ruled by Zeus. And what's fascinating about this man, playing the voice of Vader, is that he has all this energy in the 9th sign of Sagittarius, on January 17th, 1931. He's got his sun there. He's got his moon there. He's got a new moon. Or a sliver of the moon. A dark moon. A dark moon. Darth Vader, dark. The sun and moon. He's got a new moon, man. He also has Saturn there. And then he's got Mercury, the way he thinks. So here is the lineup of what he has. Sun, Mercury, moon, and Saturn. Kronos, Satan, all in the 9th zodiac sign of Sagittarius, which is ruled by Zeus. Zeus is down here in Gemini, across the way. Gemini, with Pluto. So many big nuggets here. But the big takeaway, ladies and gentlemen, are getting the astro-alchemical cosmic codes. He's got his sun in neon, gate number 10 in human design. He's got his Saturn and moon both in gate 26, which is iron. Which is tied to the Yod-He Vahe, there it is, which is the gate of the ego. He has his Saturn and moon in the gate of the ego. Saturn and the moon, man. The dark moon. The dark Yahweh. And then he has his moon in gate number 9, and 9 is fluorine, which is, here is the lineup alchemically. And you could do this with your birth chart. Spotlight.life. He's got the moon, selenium. He's got neon. Neon being a artificial light. His sun is in neon, which is that's the lightsabers are neon. Then he has his Mercury in fluorine. Gate number 9. Despite what human design is going to say, because it's going to have its magic, the chemistry is where it's at. And fluorine is where you get fluoric acid from. Acid. An acidic Sagittarius This acidic way of thinking. Mercury is the way you think. This is how valuable chemistry is here. So he's got literally Saturn and the moon in gate number 26, which is the element iron. And iron's tied to the Yod He Vahe. So now you have reference to the God of the Bible with this layer. Being in Sagittarius, tied to Zeus. Zeus across the way in Gemini down here with Pluto, with his brother down here. We got gangbusters with this. And ladies and gentlemen, when you add all these up, when you add he is stacked in Sagittarius, man. He's got his sun in gate number 10. He has two placements, Kronos and the moon in gate 26. And then he has his Mercury in gate 9, fluorine. And when you add them up, ladies and gentlemen, it adds up to the number 71, which is this. James Earl Jones is the voice of Vader when he says, I am your father. Timestamp 71. And this is how I know for a fact that mankind is being used and we live in a scripted reality. This system came out in 1987. It came out 7 years after The Empire Strikes Back. And then on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, the true sidereal astrology chart, I don't know when Athen brought it out, but it's rather new, way beyond 1980. And then adding in the chemistry and adjusting it with the true sidereal is way newer than when this movie came out. It's an impossibility to have these outcomes like this, to add up all these here, the sun, Mercury, the way you think, your spirit, the dark side of the moon, and the dark side of Saturn, because it's with the moon right there, and he becomes Vader, the voice of Vader, where he tells Luke, I am your father, and the timestamp is 71, and these add up to the number 71. And it's an impossibility. Unless, of course, there is somebody peering into the future right now, knowing what we're doing, and they're in the future, peering into the past, I should say. That's the only way that you could even have a possibility add up this way. Are you seeing this? Because this is the heavy hitter. This is the heavy hitter, man, with all this stuff. Impossibility, man. So when you look at all five members and they add up to 71, and I am your father 71, and then the voice of James Earl Jones, who is saying I am your father in the movie, he's got this adding up to 71. And this is Darth Vader extraordinaire right here. The spirit combined with the way you think, which is acidic, combined with the Saturn moon matrix, as David Icke likes to call it. There's magic with that. Yeah. And then the five men that get cast that are 71 with the timestamp and James Earl Jones. No way. There are too many impossibilities with this. Too many. So the big takeaway really is gate number 26, which is the element iron, which is our blood. Lights, camera, action is 56. But what's in gate 26 is Saturn and the moon. When you take Saturn, which is very cold, and you take a new moon, which is black, you can do you can see how that stuff lines up. Saturn and the moon together, conjunct like that, and it's in Sagittarius, which is a cold sign because it's in the Tropic of Cancer, it is. James Earl Jones was born in the Tropic of Cancer, so it's during the winter time. January 17th is a Capricorn tropical sign, but the sun is in Sagittarius there. Okay? The sun's in Sagittarius there. Saturn is in there though, so it lines up with tropical as well. By the way, I didn't know what his birth time was, so I don't know what houses they're going to be in. It's irrelevant. It's the zodiac signs that play out here. So, looking at this from the human design perspective, what's fascinating about this is the connection between gate 26 and gate 44. You can see that they're connected. This is called a connecting channel. So if you're a fan of the human design, well, this is for you. You see, the gate 26 we know is the ego, the egoist. I've got the positive and negatives there. On the positive side, it's about persuasion. The ego, and the negative side, manipulation. Well, clearly Darth Vader's manipulation. Persuasion as well, trying to get you to come to the dark side. That's just persuasion. Using willpower to influence other people. That's gate 26, tied to the Yod. So you have the God of the Bible tied to this gate. You can see how it plays out, because if you're talking about the God, if that's what you're labeling it as, well, it's everything. Positive and negative. And this reduces down to the number 8. And then the connecting channel is gate 44 in the spleen. And that connects to Satan in Hebrew, where the Yod and Satan are working together because he's an agent of the Yod. Satan is an agent of the Yod. That's your ego. The ego is an agent of God because God is both of these. And if you want to label it as the Yod, fine. If you want to label it as Zeus, fine. If you want to label it as Vishnu, fine. Whatever you want to label it as, doesn't matter. Because this gate right here is a gate where it doesn't want to repeat the fear of repeating patterns. Remembering what worked and what didn't. That's what God's all about. Like, did that work? Did it not work? I'm going to send my agent out, make sure it doesn't happen, does happen, whatever. That's why it says in Job 1 verses 6 or 1 verses 8, hey, have you considered Job? Go take his family out. Manipulation. Negative stuff. You hear and see it in the Bible, man. From the God. These connections are so dialed in, folks. This is theology tied to human design, which came out in 1987. And I know Ra, who created this, wasn't sitting down with this like this. Doesn't have to. So going back to these two men, David Prowse and James Earl Jones. Prowse plays the body. He's acting out Vader, and then James Earl Jones is the voice. And when you add their birthdays up, you get 18, and the 18th card in the tarot is the moon card. The moon is the shadow of the sun, the negative polarity of the sun, the ego. In astronomy, the moon is the ego. Remember, the god of sin is in ancient times tied to the moon. Sinning, the left-hand path. The sun would be the right-hand path. And even when you look at, this astrological sign, and you see what gate is here, gate 34, which is selenium, which is the moon, is in the sign of Sagittarius. So Darth Vader arbitrarily, by default, is in Sagittarius. This kind of says that Zeus gets to play whatever character it wants, and it decided that it wants to become Vader. Plays all the characters. Of course, in James Earl Jones' chart, again, you have Zeus and Pluto, both brothers in Gemini, across the way from Sagittarius, and Saturn and the moon. Right across the way, man. Opposition. Let's get into the body. You did the voice. How about David Prowse and the body? Here's David Prowse's astrological chart. Notice where his moon's at. He is stacked in Gemini. Again, the opposite of James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones has in Sagittarius. Well, he's stacked in Gemini. And his moon is in Gemini. And even his Mercury is in Gemini. And Mercury rules Gemini. And Mercury has 80 protons, and selenium, one of its stable isotopes, is 80. Not a coincidence there. The way you think. Tied to the moon, the way you feel. He has the moon and Mercury. Take that back, he's got his Mercury in Taurus, but it's in the same house. The moon is the way you feel, Mercury is the way you think. He's a tall guy, man. He's got his Saturn in Aquarius. Tall. 6'6". Cold. Saturn in Aquarius. Born in Bristol, England. Tropic of Cancer. The wintertime during Aquarius. A Saturn placement there. The co-ruler of Aquarius. Cold. Calculated. Strategic. So here are James Earl Jones and David Prowse's charts side by side. Jones on the left, Prowse on the right. I got the dark moons there because they were both born with a new moon. There may have been a sliver of white in James Earl Jones, but David Prowse, new moon. They're new moons. Black moons. Darth Vader moons. He has it in Gemini, David Prowse, who's the character Vader, and then across the way in Sagittarius. See these, how they're flipped? Again, I don't have their times. I just did 9:01 a.m. for both of them. But their moon is literally across from one another. The epitome of the opposition here, the moon. Sag, Gemini. Their moons are flipped, and they both have new moons. One's the body, one's the voice. So David Prowse playing the body. Here is his moon in gate number 45 in the element rhodium. Rhodium is the RH factor in our blood. Luke, I am your father. I'm going to hand down the biology of my blood to you. And he does through the story of Star Wars. Now you bring real life into this and you add in chemistry of rhodium. Rhodium is the RH factor in our blood. 103 is the 27th prime number. Could go on and on with the mathematics of this. On and on about the mathematics. So let's bring this together between the body and the voice of Vader. Prowse has his moon in gate 45, new moon, and James Earl Jones, the voice, has his moon in gate 26. They're not a connecting channel, but they are the throat to the desire, speaking the desire. Well, they spoke the dark side. Notice their birthdays. Prowse, July 11th, there's the 71. James Earl Jones, January 17th, there's the mirror, the 1-7. Not an accident there. They share the same numbers. Remember that Star Wars came out on the 7 of clubs. 71 is the 20th prime number. 71. This is a mirror of that. So we have gate 45 for Prowse, gate 26 for Jones. Both of them have new moons. They're both across from each other in opposition. And when you add up 45 and 26, you get 71. Another 71. Right here during this scene. This is David Prowse in the costume and James Earl Jones as the voice. And this timestamp is 71. And their two gates that are there where their moon is occupied add up to the number 71. And they're the dark side of the moon. James Earl Jones has his Saturn conjunct with his moon. Are you seeing this, folks? Another impossibility, man. Because these guys played the role in 1977. Human Design came out 10 years later. And the True Sidereal came out, recently. I don't even know how old Athens' system is. But I know it's more than 10 years old. And adding in the chemistry into this, folks, is all new stuff. Another impossibility with this timestamp. All right, let's get into the next topic now, the moon. Since the big highlight and the focus is on the moon here. The moon is the way you feel. That's why you go on a honeymoon. So one of the elements that matches up with the moon is selenium, because it's the word Selene, which is the Greek goddess of the moon. The consort of Helios, the sun. The sister of Helios. Selenium is 34 protons. Darth Vader is 34. I've already shown you the connections between the moon here. These are the gates of the moon, of these two right there, are uncanny, undeniable, and mind-blowing. And ladies and gentlemen, in the Torah, The tree of life is tied to the moon. It's tied to Mercury as well, because Mercury has 80 protons. Mercury's tied to the serpent. But there are no deniabilities of these connections. The 80. So the tree of life's tied to Darth Vader. Remember, Darth Vader says, I am your father. That's tied to the tree of life. And just for good measure, to show you how scripted the Bible is, the 34th book in the most popular Bible in the world, the 66 books, the book of Nahum is the 34th book. And look at how many total chapters and verses it has. 3 chapters, 47 verses. And 347 is the 69th prime number, and the 69 is the moon. It's got the yin-yang right on it. So when people tell me, oh, it's not scripted, yeah, it's called scriptures, because the word script is in scriptures. It's all scripted. The whole thing. It's the beast. I covered this in the Beast 2.0, the magic square, the moon. These rows of 3, 6, 9, they all add up to 3321. That's not only the 81st triangular number, but the 41st hexagonal number. 41 is David. This is Jesus saying, I am the root and offspring of David. I'm not saying that the moon is David, but, well, possibility. Ye are of your father the devil. I am the root and offspring of David. Jesus doesn't say, I'm not part of that father lineage. Doesn't say that in John 8, verses 44. He just says, ye are of the father the devil. Doesn't exclude himself. These are so ridiculously scripted. Go fact check this stuff yourself. And again, man, James Earl Jones Connolly is an 80. Tied to the tree of life. I am your father. You can see that tree, this is tree, is 34. Darth Vader is 34. The tree of life. 46. Wait till you see what the 46 is tied to. It's tied to our DNA. So this has Darth Vader written all over it. And James Earl Jones, the voice being the 80, and 80 being selenium, and selenium being 34, and Vader being 34, and tree being 34. That's why during Rosh Hashanah and the Passovers and all that stuff, you know when they do them? In Judaism? When it's a full moon. And the sun is setting. The sun is setting and the moon is full. Which one's getting the recognition? The sun's going down, the moon is coming up. The moon is getting all the recognition. Full moon. I mean, the sun has to play a role because the sun creates that light. And if you're not convinced that we live in a scripted reality, I would love for those of you that are doubters, how do you come up with these numbers like this? See, James Earl Jones, this is his birth city. And he was born on latitude north of 34.7, which is right there. 69th prime number, 3347. Tied to the 34th book. 34th book's tied to Darth Vader. Tied to the tree of life. The guy who's voiced Darth Vader. He was born on the 34.7 north latitude line. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, you see that word right there? Arca-butla. Well, you see that word ark there, right? The Ark of the Covenant. Well, you see the 2 letters there, the AR? What is that on the periodic table? There's only one element. Argon. And it's element number 18. What's the 18th element in the tarot? 18th card in the tarot? The moon is. You see these connections? Undeniable, man. This man not having a choice. He didn't have a choice. Why do you have choices? Why do you think you have choices? When I'm showing you a scripted reality from layers beyond layers. Well, let's keep going. I have more information. Told you this is going to be a long one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take the solar spreads of when these two gentlemen were casted for Star Wars 1977. James Earl Jones on the right, he was 46 years young. David Prowse on the left, who played the body of Vader, he was 43 on the left. And then we're going to compare the Master Life and Master Spirit spreads to get a totality of the numbers and the card and what we can bridge from that. So we're going to add them all up here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take card number 40 from David Prowse and his birthday, card number 36 from James Earl Jones, and just match those up with the Master Spirit and the Master Life spreads. These govern all the spreads that move through the ages that we end up having birthdays through. And adding up all those cards using the trusty calculator, we get 132. It's going to be tied to cesium if you want to bring in the chemistry. Cesium is 55. Satan is 55 in the English. But then we want to get a card that's attached to the 132. We just bridge the gap. We get the 52 as the marker. We subtract until we get to 52 or below. We have to do it twice. And we get the number 28. 28 is tied to the 2 of diamonds. The 2 of diamonds is card number 28, which is tied to the word Lucifer. Now you're going to get the devil being tied to Lucifer here. And the dark side and the left-hand path. A lot of people in this world, well, I shouldn't say a lot of people. People in this world, they pledge, they do conjuring, they use the magic of Lucifer. The left-hand path. The path of sin. And again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's just the way it is. But this 28 Lucifer is tied to this right here. This is how you get the tie into the devil, man. You get the numerology, you get the numbers through mathematics, you get the elements on the periodic table, and you use logic and common sense. So 28 is the outcome for all of these cards from David Prowse and James Earl Jones, who were casted to play Vader in 1977. And they end up reducing down to the number 28. And 28 is tied to the number 107 through the primes. And 107 is tied to the 587 through the primes. And 587 in the Greek isopsophy, the triple-digit Greek numerology cipher, is 587. This is the devil, the Diabolo. And you just go all the way down and you keep going down. And we know that 28 is the second perfect number in mathematics. It's tied to the element nickel, which is called devil's copper. But it's also tied to the isotope of silicon. Silicon means the future. This is where we're headed to. Silicon chips, computers, transhumanism. That's for another story, but that's where we're headed. But you can see how God and Satan, the polarity of the creator, is the 14 that matches the silicon. And silicon is the technology capital of the world. That is tied to the apple, biting of the apple in Silicon Valley. That's why I have the devil here holding the apple. That's why Apple computers, their first computer, it is said that it sold for $666. Because it's tied to the future. And the future is the age of Aquarius. With or without our consent. Silicon, sin. Silicon, sinning, left-hand path, technology, Antichrist through that layer. Darth Vader. Well, then it gets into theology again. Again, this is Jesus saying, hey, your father's the devil. You are of the father, the devil. It says of the, meaning you are from. And there's the word devil, diablo. There it is right there. Undeniable connections through mathematics. Well, then if we just do the numerology of those words, that statement that Jesus says, ye are of your father the devil, from the original Greek, the modern Koine Greek, where the original New Testament, the New Testament was written, 296. I'm going to get a card attached to that now. We're going to do the same rules. We got to get to 52 or below. 52 are the total amount of cards. 296, we have to do it 5 times. And we get to the number 36. And wouldn't you know it? Ladies and gentlemen, wouldn't you know that James Earl Jones, the voice of Vader, his birth card is the 36th card in the deck. Born on January 17th. Ye are of your father the devil. Well, I'm not saying that James Earl Jones is the devil. But I'm saying that this is what the storyboard is telling us through Star Wars. So you have Star Wars tied to theology, straight up, with these bridges. This is where you get Satan, Satan, Satan. 10's tied to the 10th house of astrology, ruled by Kronos. Kronos is referred to in a lot of people's minds as Satan. 10 is the binary system. That's what the Star Wars was all about, on off. It was the Force, light against dark. So he gets the Vader voice. His birth card is the 36th card in the deck, which is tied to ye are of your father the devil from the original Greek. The 36th card in the cards of the cosmic playing cards ties into the 74th card in the tarot, the 10 of Pentacles. And you see, this is how I know this is scripted, because the 74 is tied to our DNA. That's why it says, I am your father. Ye are of your father the devil. It's going to tie back to Adam, because Adam is 18 in Hebrew numerology. It's tied to the sine and cosine wave. This is our DNA. The 5 elements that make up RNA and DNA add up to 74. Their molar mass adds up to 74. 74 is going to be tied to the 32nd element, germanium, as well as the 33rd element, arsenic. 46 is tied to these big heavy hitters. Now, remember, we're talking about Darth Vader saying, I am your father. I am your biological father. Tied to RNA and DNA. Nucleotides, 46. They make up RNA and DNA. The Eye of Providence, which is right here, 46. Double helix, 46. And ladies and gentlemen, James Earl Jones was 46 when they casted him to play Vader's voice in the 1977 Star Wars movie. He was 46. So you tell me whether or not you think mankind could pull this off with all these layers that I'm showing you here. How are they pulling this off? I just caught this. Like, they casted Natalie Portman at 7. She played the Queen at 17, and Anakin was 9 years young when they casted him. There's Anakin right there. Anakin and the Queen right there. Another thing that I just caught they'd have to get. And there's no way they could have, because he played the role before he even died. This is Natalie Portman's age when she was the Queen in The Phantom of the Menace in 1999, and Anakin was 9 in that same movie, and those are the two that came together to form Luke and Leia, and this is Anakin. This was way after the movie came out. Folks, this is an impossibility. Impossibilities. 23 pairs of chromosomes. This is the 23andMe. And if you weren't convinced all the way up to this point, maybe this will do it for you. Here is how old or young James Earl Jones was when he was the voice of Vader in 1977. There, I get circled in the bottom. 46 years, 4 months, 9 days. 46 years. 46 is the double helix. I am your father. I am your biological father. You see that? But it wasn't this. It was when you add up the total amount of days. 16,931. The single digit is adding up to the number 20. And the 20, folks, is not only the prime number to the number 71, which is all these guys' birthdays added up. And it's the timestamp. But it's the freaking card of May 25th. 7 of clubs. Card number 20. They cast a man to play Vader's voice from his birthday to the release date of Star Wars. reduces down to a number 20. Come on, man. Do you know it would have to go into the editors, writers, casting directors to get it to come out this way? And the last thing I'll show you here, ladies and gentlemen, is when you take James Earl Jones' birth card, 10 of diamonds, it's got the 1-0 on it. And then the release of Star Wars has got a big fat 7 on it. What happens when you bring the 1, the 0, and the 7 together? You get the 28th prime number. And what's the 28 tied to? Remember, it's all the birth cards added up for the men that played Vader. It's tied to Lucifer, the devil, the Diabolo. 107 is the 28th prime number. It's the second perfect number in mathematics. And that's the 107 right there. Impossibilities, folks. I don't buy it. And that's why I have these two men laughing here, these two characters laughing. Because it's divine comedy. We're in a movie. We're in a scripted reality. Final answer. You can tell I'm very passionate about this. Final answer. So if you're beyond the basic decoding of just connecting words to numbers, you start using these systems, you'll start to see that ain't man doing it. It ain't no organization doing anything. We are just following our blueprints. James Earl Jones didn't have a choice. He's not a Mason or a Jesuit. They had to get rid of that silliness. It's a joke. We live in a predestined, scripted reality. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's the presentation. A long one, probably the longest scripted reality I've ever done. That's all I got for today. My name is Logan for Decode Your Reality. Until next time, we will see you later.